Hi, this is Eric Simpson, producer for Grief Hills. Hey, I'd like to ask you to do us a favor. If you like the show, if you are enjoying it or getting anything out of it, or think that somebody else might get something out of it, would you share it for us? Share it on social media or talk to your friends about it, send it in a link in your email. That kind of support helps us immensely. Let us know what you think of the show or how it's helped you. Send any feedback to Lisa Michelle at legitu.com. In this episode of Grief Hills, Lisa Michelle Zega discusses the importance of addressing grief and pain instead of passing it back and forth like a hot potato. She emphasizes the need for love, which is an obvious need, for forgiveness, and for nurturing to heal from loss. By witnessing our pain, by releasing our pain, we can prevent it from affecting others and move toward community wellness. This episode encourages listeners to embrace their emotion, to not be afraid to have tears or to cry, as an essential aspect of cleansing and healing. So, without further ado,
welcome to another episode of Grief Heals, the podcast where we explore how it is that grief heals us with our relationship with ourselves, with one another, and our whole wide world. I am your host, Lisa Michelle Zega, and I am excited to have another conversation. All right. Welcome to another episode of Grief Heals. I am your host, Lisa Michelle Zega, and I'm excited about today's episode, even though there's a certain way that I don't know exactly where today's episode is going, but I know the high points, I know the message I want to convey, and that message, I guess I'll just drop right in, is that we have been playing like a massive universal game of hot potato with our pain. And the reason that grief matters to me is because what I believe grief does is it's the response, the normal response to loss. And I would define that as the normal response to loss is to bring love, to bring healing, to bring nurturing to the source of pain, right? So like to witness it, to bandage it up, to do whatever healing remedy is necessary to that place of pain. I'm also thinking about what happens when we don't do that, right? So when our pain is not met, we, without thinking about it, naturally pass that pain on to other people. It's like a game of hot potato. It's like, I can't hold this. I don't know what to do with it. So I toss it on to you. And that is why forgiveness, I think, is like a place of the grieving. It's a place of the release. It's a place of love gets in. I know I'm okay. I release what I'm holding. So let me just stop, pause, and let's just ground ourselves to get into this episode. I'm doing this because I need it, and I know that in our day and age where pauses are so far between and take effort and intentionality, that it matters. It matters to pause. So let's pause. And wherever you are, however you are, whatever position you're in, simply become aware of your toes. However many toes you have, become aware of those toes. And if for whatever reason you don't have access to that sensation, simply become aware of the scents, the smells in your environment. I am wiggling my toes to help me become aware of them. Now I'm letting them settle. It's just a time to center in to our senses, right? So right now I'm playing with the sense of touch, but you could choose sight or smell. Just your sensory awareness of the distance around you, the spaces between you and the next object. Go ahead and take a breath with me. One more, recognizing we're breathing the same air. All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So back to my thought about hot potato. When we've been hurt, if our pain is not witnessed, if it's not seen, if it's not held, if it's not nurtured, right, to wellness, and it's just allowed to live dormant, it will come out. It doesn't go away. So some of us reenact our pain, the same pain that was delivered to us, on other people, right? Some of us refuse. I will never do what was done to me to another human being. Either way, if that pain is not met with what, like, just think of a plant. Think of a plant that is wilted or dying, or, right? We don't go and curse the plant. We look and we're like, okay, what does this plant need? What's missing in the soil? Does this plant need sunshine? Has it gotten too much sunshine? Does it need water? Like, we tend to it based on where it's at and what the condition and what's caused the situation, right? Same with a human being. So if we're not met that way, and with humans, we can like go on. We can just keep moving, keep going. But if we don't meet our pain, we either pass it on like a game of hot potato, or we keep the hot potato inside us and it's too much to hold. So our pain leaks out and is visited on others in a different way. So maybe we become very manipulative. Maybe we are constantly fighting to get our needs met. So we guilt trip other people. We tell them all the ways that they are not doing what we prefer. We try to control other people. There's so many ways. And unfortunately, my brain is just coming up with these too. We get incredibly angry at people. We become overprotective. We're trying to make sure that the people close to us never, ever, ever experience what we experienced. We interrupt people because our voice has been swallowed for so long and we want to be heard. And so we're the people that we can't listen. We're constantly interrupting. So this is what I mean by we play a colossal game of hot potato. It's like, I don't want this experience in me. I don't want this pain in my body. So I find ways to alleviate it. And here's the thing, we do not sit down with a whiteboard and write out all the ways we're going to do harm. It doesn't happen like that. It's not planned. It doesn't mean if someone doesn't plan to hurt me, that doesn't lessen the amount of pain or harm that's done, right? And oftentimes the pain visited on others is not calculated, intentional, plotted, planned, right? It's coming out because we, in our vital needs, have not been met, have not been held, have not been loved. So I want to touch on forgiveness. And I love the way that Matt Kahn talks about forgiveness. And I'm just going to say some of the things that he says. So when he talks about forgiveness, he's like, hey, look, we are never, ever, ever condoning another person's behavior, right? We're not ignoring the consequences. What we are doing is we are refusing to store someone else's unhappiness in our cellular body. I remember I was working with someone who had experienced molestation from a revered and loved and celebrated family member when she was a little girl. And that became such a source of her shame. And she just so wanted to be able to be wrapped in a blanket, thick blanket to protect herself from the pain of that harm. And she developed a belief at a very young age that there is something wrong with me. She watched this family member who she also loved and celebrated be revered by her brothers, her sisters, her mother, her father. And so she internalized, she brought inside her little body the pain that he didn't want to carry in his body, and he put in her very young body. And she carried that for a lifetime. And we worked together. I want to say by that time she was in her 60s. And I remember she had this urge in one of our times together. She grabbed, as if she was grabbing inside her body, something she'd been carrying for decades. And she said, he gave me this pain to carry inside me. And it's not mine. And she extended her arms in front of her. And she said, it's time to give it back to you. And she named him by name. And we wept, and we wept, and we wept, and we celebrated that this pain that had been living inside this precious, beautiful, lovable, and I simply witnessed her give it back. That's it. She was giving back something, and in that moment, she was forgiving him. She was forgiving him by releasing her body from carrying his pain. So when we are forgiving, we're simply saying, and this is how Matt Kahn says it, and I might not be using his exact words, but what I can tell you is my words are inspired by his. So he is basically, look, we are unwilling to carry another person's unprocessed, unmetabolized, unintegrated pain in our precious bodies. And as we release that pain from our body, we are also stopping a cycle. Like we are by allowing our pain to receive love, to receive witness, we are stopping the cycle of the hot potato game. Now I'm not tossing it onto you or trying to hold something that's too hot for my body to hold within me. Whew. So let's just take a breath together. I'm going too fast. Let me slow down and take a breath again. Another person told me about how her mom would get hit if she showed any visible signs of her discomfort, her sadness, specifically her tears. I was with another woman who said that if she cried, she would be locked in a closet and hit. So there has been this message that gets passed on that our tears need to be apologized for, that they are somehow wrong or bad, that they can't be held, they can't be met. I was doing a training just yesterday, and a woman apologized for her tears. And another woman came up and said, "You feel the world through those tears. You hear stories through your tears. Your tears are beautiful." Oh, so incredible to hear that. Now, the first woman I mentioned would have to go and cry in a corner. If she had to cry, she needed to cry without being seen in a dark corner. So, one of the ways that she played hot potato is when she allowed her daughter to cry, because she chose to allow her daughter to cry. But then there was a way that she like judged her daughter for her tears, and basically said, like, "You're getting to have this total extravagant moment, and look at you crying. I never got to cry." And that pent up energy of her not being met was thrown as a hot potato to her little girl. I was So this past week has been really full, like overflowing past the brim with training and people and experiences. I don't know what the man heard that I said. All I know is he had been incarcerated for many, many, many years, most of his life, in fact. He is a grandfather, and he raised his hand and he said, "I have asked my grandson not to cry. I have told him boys don't cry. And right here, right now, today, that message stops for him and for everyone else." Now, y'all, I was not talking about the things I'm talking about today. I was not even talking about tears. I was talking about how what we think and what we do gets formed in us as individuals, in us as cultures, in us as societies. And that was the message that he delivered to all of us. And can I just tell you, hearing this man in his 70s, who'd been most of his life behind bars, tell me that he would never, ever, ever tell his grandson that boys don't cry. And in fact, he would give a very different message. Can I tell you, right then and there, I got down on my knees. I kid you not, because what he was delivering was holy ground. Like, he was sharing. Maybe that right there is what, or at least part of what inspired today's podcast. Another thing is, I was feeling deep fatigue, like in my bones. I had the most beautiful, the most glorious, the most love filled week. I mean, literally every single day, I could not believe, and just kept giving thanks and thanks and thanks that this is my life, that I get to be with people who have suffered so much and who are so powerful and have solved so many problems, and yet there's this part of them that has gone unwitnessed and judged and even incarcerated in cases. Okay. And got to be with them and witness them, and just I, if I could tell the stories from this week, oh my goodness. And maybe I'll ask them permission, right? Okay. But this morning, I have done a lot to just recharge my body, to just give myself what I need. So I went on a long walk with my dog. Morning sunshine. I meditated. I took a long, glorious bath in the dark with one candle. And I started just getting mesmerized by the shadows. And I was noticing how the shadow is so much bigger than the reality, right? And often the shadow it doesn't represent the object. It's like I would have to discern, oh, what is that the shadow of? And I'm looking at my ceiling and I'm trying to trace what object is being reflected in this shadow. And I started thinking about, you know, shadow work. And specifically, Carl Jung is my most familiar, like when I think of shadow work. Anyway, and I was like, oh, but a shadow is always projecting and amplifying something. It is amplifying something. And what I believe that grief does is grief comes and meets that object, not the shadow, like meets the essence of what occurred. What was the loss? What did you need that you didn't get? What did you get that you didn't need? How is this showing up? And can we meet that part of ourselves and one another with compassion? And I really just mean, can we meet it without judgment so that we can get curious? And actually, interrupting judgment, one way to do that is to just go straight to curiosity. Or we can interrupt judgment with compassion just by releasing the judgment and get curious. And when we get curious, it elicits like this moving toward ourselves, moving toward one another. The things that were told to me just this week, the things confessed to me, the things said out loud that had never been said to another human. And then the relief when just they are met with love, with kindness, with a holding, a grace, a just like being, okay, just being with one another in it, with it, because we all have suffered loss and we all need to be met in those places of pain. And we are all holding pain that someone else stored in our bodies that needs to be released, that needs to be let go, that needs to be flushed with cleansing water and flushed again and again and again until the water runs clear. And our tears are part of what is necessary to let it wash, let it cleanse, let it go. And so I am passionate that we allow our tears, because our tears want to cleanse. They are here to release what we are holding. What we are holding is too much, our tears are letting it flow, washing us, cleansing us. When we let others witness our tears, we are cooperating in community wellness. We are doing good for the whole. Your tears give me permission for mine. There are so many people walking around with tears that are held in the body, and the body is constipated, and it shows up sometimes in actual constipation, but it shows up in all kinds of ways in this body. The body is always talking to us. So, hot potato. I think that we either try to eat the hot potato or put the hot potato in someone else's hands and grieve. And I do, y'all, if you know people that, and I'm really thinking of indigenous people, like people that have a history in grief rituals, in rituals for us to release. and let go of these potatoes that we're carrying in our body that are either other people's that we won't deliver to other people, or we're passing them along. And we're always passing them along in some kind of way. Maybe the hot potatoes coming out as French fries, tater tots, shredded potatoes, fried potatoes, I don't know. But I'll tell you this, our pain will not stay locked in our body. And it also comes out in our own aches and pains, our own illnesses, our own accidents. And tears are precious, and tears are needed, and tears are cleansing. And forgiveness is the release, forgiveness is the stand, it is the freedom march that says, I will not have your pain stored in my body. I am releasing it, and may all experience healing and wholeness so that we stop hurting others in the same kinds of ways. So I think that will be that for now. Maybe take a breath with me. Please take a breath with me. And one more. And if you're open and willing, put your arms out. If not, just recognize that I am hugging you. I'm bringing my arms in and in and in, wrapping them around you and me and all of us. Recognizing that grief is not here to hurt us, it's here because the hurting self needs love. All right, mwah. Goodbye for now.
You've been listening to Grief Heals with Lisa Michelle Zega. The podcast is produced by me, Eric Simpson, in association with Jump Up and Down Productions. Music by Ken Dalian, Drunken Nights to Sunday Mornings, and Stefan Carlin, A Calming Ocean, A Common Notion. If you would like more information about the work Lisa does, point your browsers to legityou.com. That's LEGITYOU. Lisa can also be reached at lisamichelle@legityou.com. This has been a Jump Up and Down production.